Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nikki Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school, and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nikkiraby.com/podcast and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nikki Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I'm talking to Coral Atkinson, who is the founder of Velveteen Babies. It's a beautiful, beautiful site, and she makes and creates the most wonderful gifts and lovely things for children's bedrooms. So do go and have a look. I wanted to talk to Coral because I saw this brilliant post that she did about starting her business with only £10 in her bank account. And it really fascinated me because certainly when I was at school, there was so much talk of a business loan or being left inheritance or feeling like starting a business was way in the future, that you couldn't actually just do it from where you are right now. So we go into detail about how she got things in motion. And also she has 3 children, a really busy life, and she's doing this from home and juggling many things. So it's a really fascinating one, and I hope that inspires you as well. And if there are any people who are listening whilst you create your goods that you sell, hello, I hope that these episodes are really helping to pass the time and are providing that friendly cup of tea that sometimes we all crave when we work by ourselves. As always, come over to Instagram at Nikki Raby. The podcast notes are nikkiraby.com/podcast, and you can find out about how to work with me one-on-one. It's all there. You know it. You know it if you're a regular listener, nikkiraby.com. Thanks so much, as always, for rating and reviewing and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Here's the episode. I hope you enjoy. Hey, Coral, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, hey, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Tell us about your business. It's beautiful. I love it.
Okay, so I guess you could say I'm the director, the owner, the general dog's body, and the only person in charge of Velveteen Babies, and which is, crazy because I still get emails addressed to the marketing manager, and I'm like, no, that is just me. That's just me. So Velveteen Babies, which is a really weird brand name, I have to say. There's a reason behind it, and obviously now it's a bit known. I haven't changed it, but over the years I've been a bit like, okay, that's weird. So the brand name comes from the Velveteen Rabbits, which was a reading we had at our wedding, and I always loved the idea of the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, where things were loved and it was all about that kind of heirloom, that toy that you love forever. And I guess that was the mission with Velveteen Babies, was to create products that were kind of design led, but also that would be loved for years, and the quality would sort of speak out, and they would be, kept for as long as they could, maybe found in a box in the loft one day, a few generations down. So that's kind of the idea of it. So I hand make beautiful kind of garlands and clouds and room decor for kids and for adults. I have adults that buy my droplet garlands for themselves, which is great.
Yes, definitely. And this seems like a perfect accompaniment because earlier I was talking to a declutterer, Hannah, about making your space really lovely and not creating just plastic rooms full of madness as you may do with kids. So how did it start for you? How long's it been going? And I know from your Instagram post the other day, you said that you started with a tenner in your bank account.
Yep, that is true. We are, so we live up north, but I mean, I guess you could say we're a typical kind of middle class. But actually, both my parents I'm from a working class background. I know I sound a bit posh, but it's just how we talk in Harrogate. But so my parents were both kind of self-employed when I was growing up, and I suppose it's kind of rubbed off on me a bit now that I look back. So I spent my career in retail after university, as you do, because you go and get a proper job, and that was lovely. But as you'll know, when you have kids, life is a little bit different, and you suddenly need a bit of flexibility. And I suppose your idea of having that set in stone career, that kind of also melted away a bit as well. So I was on maternity leave with my second child. So I had a son before that, and then my second son that came along. I was lucky enough that I had a really, really normal and kind birth second time round, not first time round, may I say. And so because I felt kind of well in myself, and by then my parents had kind of retired, I was over at their house a lot with Barney and Felix, and I just kind of thought, right, I'm kind of in the stage where I'm gonna decorate their rooms now. And I'd really got into Instagram at this point, documented my pregnancy with Barney, and I'd started to kind of make friends with people with similar interests to myself, which is really interiors and styling and baby kind of fashion and all that sort of thing. And I kind of noticed this massive gap in the market back then, and I was like, wow, right, okay, I can't find any. I think it was monochrome that was the massive thing at the time, so I was like, I can't find anything monochrome that I can put on my kids' walls. There was a few prints out there, but there was nothing else, and I was kind of like, right, okay,
I guess I've got to do it.
I think I might have an idea. So that was it. I had £10 in my bank account, no lie. I had no savings. I had no parents with money to back me. We were literally, that was it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to spend that £10 on some felt. And I did. And that was it. My mum actually taught sewing as like a City and Guilds teacher when I was growing up. So I guess you could probably say that also had some sort of impact on me, but she would teach me how to sew. So she did. And of course, I probably cringe if I saw those first things I made now. But everyone starts somewhere, and like your first product is never going to be your end product. So that kind of just, it started. And then Instagram started, and it was this marry of my style mixed with what was going on in the kids design world, I guess. It just was right time, I suppose.
Oh, and that's so right about you just got to start somewhere, because if I look back at my website from the first one, it was so shouty and like, I'm going to make you have the best life that you ever going to have. And I'm just like, what is that? That is just,
I know. Well, it's just like anything, isn't it? You just cringe a bit. But actually, at the time, it was probably fine.
Yeah. And also as well, you can only like kind of find your momentum and find your rhythm and your direction. It's almost like that thing when you start to move on a bike or you're going on a sledge in some snow. It's like you have to get the wheels in motion to see what it would be like.
Exactly.
Did you have an entrepreneurial spirit? Like, how did you know where to start, really? Because I think it's one thing going, this is like, I've made some crochet blankets before, but they wouldn't be going online. Like, I've given them to people who don't necessarily have all their faculties, who might go like, I get it. Stitch is a bit weird.
I get it. No, so I've probably got Instagram to thank for this, because it kind of grew from nothing. I didn't start it as a business, but what I did do is I had that £10, and maybe like I'd got paid the next month with my rubbish maternity leave and like pay. And I think I started following a couple of like kids design brands. There was hardly any at the time. I think it was This Modern Life and Molly Meg, so people might be familiar or they might not. And I just started, I might have only had 20 quid, but I just started buying some kind of room props for the kids' room in like the Scandi designs and things that you just couldn't buy on the high street or anywhere virtually. And then I started kind of photographing the kids' rooms with the things I'd bought from them and then with my own things. And really, I kind of got to know those brands and the people behind them. And they started to kind of share my pictures on their feeds. And it was a really organic thing. And then my followers started to grow on both. I started just doing it on my personal account, which I still have as well. And people were like, oh, could you make me one of those? And I literally had no idea how much to charge, because I'd be like, well, I'm just sat on maternity leave anyway. Like, how much, So, yeah, it just went from there. And it was the most organic, natural, kind of bizarre way to start a business, because I never intended to start a business. I just didn't. And I guess my background in buying and marketing and merchandising, all of those things kind of just started to come together. And I kind of had an idea of, I suppose, the look I wanted to create. There was so little in the kids design market back then. It was like a barren desert virtually. And nowadays it's like a tropical rainforest. I mean, there's so much going on, but I just kind of knew that I had just those sort of instincts in the early days that like, there wasn't anything monochrome, and monochrome was massive, but you couldn't buy it on the high street back then, which you can now. But I think I've got a bit of a natural kind of, without bigging myself up at all, because I'm not like that at all, but I just have a natural
That's such a northern thing completely. Like, I'm really good at what I do, but please don't hate me at the same time.
Don't think I'm being big. I'm really not. But yeah, I think I do have a bit of they always used to say it at work when I worked for someone else. They'd be like, yeah, you've got a very good eye for like trend forecasting or whatever. And I suppose that's one of my skills, as well as actually making the things. Yeah.
I guess then if it's moved into becoming a business, that you quickly then had to start learning other roles, like not just the making, but also the doing and the emails and the customer service. I mean, like, how long is a piece of string? What really helped you sort of transition into those? Not only, I guess, from like a strategy point of view of actually getting stuff done, but also that mindset thing of like, oh blimey, this is a business now. This is a living, breathing thing.
Yeah. So after I'd finished maternity leave, I actually went back to my part-time job, which was 3 days a week or 20 hours a week, I think it was. So I was juggling a lot of balls in the air for a couple of years because I'm a bit risk adverse, and I was a bit like, okay, I'm not ready to start. I wasn't taking the money to be able to sort of justify leaving my 20-hour-a-week job. But yeah, I started to juggle lots of balls, but then I kind of loved it because I'd get back from the day job, get the babies to bed, and then I'd be like, right, I'm gonna take some product shots, or I'm gonna. And actually, I started.
So funny because it's actually the last thing you want to do sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
My dad was saying a while ago, going, and this is when you start your oh gosh, he was kicking
there's a
back.
lot of hard work involved in being having a business, a lot, and yeah, I'd sit and teach myself with like my iPad with like how to do something, and then my laptop on as well, and like just literally going backwards and forwards, like what on earth is SEO? What is this? What the heck is that? And like I literally just taught myself everything, like just tenacious, I suppose.
Yeah, it's what's needed. I think sometimes there is such a glamour that's spoken about of like, yeah, just start your own business and feel really empowered, and it's like, but there are times where it's 11:10 at night and you're going, I can't get this page to load. Why is it got a weird bit of code in the right hand corner? I don't understand that. What is going on?
I know, it's mad. Like, you do feel a bit like that kind of, like the swan, I suppose, on the top of the water. Outwardly, you look all right, but underneath, you're like trying to pedal and you're trying to like navigate this whole new world. And it's so true. I don't know what I did before the internet and Google, because I literally did. It was all self-taught. And I do think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to be aware of, it's not just sitting and sewing that pretty garland. In fact, probably maybe half my actual time is spent sewing. The rest of the time it is, like you say, it's answering emails straight away or as quickly as I can. Customer service, which is massive for me. I always want to be, top dog on that. And then it's like product shots and styling. And you'll have seen from my Instagram that I kind of don't just repost other people's styling. Like a lot of the time I do go up to the kids' rooms, make a massive mess, restyle it all, photograph it all, then edit it on, VSCO or whatever I use for doing all my online posts. I've always got to do a bit of editing with it. And and then thinking of a caption for Instagram, it's also time consuming.
Yeah, and it's sort of, and also once you start setting standards for yourself, you're just like, oh, okay, I can't just like throw this shabby old thing out. It has to be up to scratch, because people notice and that's your brand. How do you structure your week in terms of trying to do all the things? Have there been sort of strategies that have helped you really make progress in terms of not only just doing the things day to day and like fighting the fires or answering the emails, whatever, but also focusing on that growth going forward? How do you work between those two realms?
Okay, good question. So I do feel like I need to dedicate a bit more time to growth and maybe getting some mentoring along the way at some point on how I can expand this without just spending every day sat sewing, because that, I suppose, it is a bit limited in terms of growth with the fact that my products are handmade, but they're handmade by me. And I don't think that outsourcing sewing is the way for me to go, because I think people love that thing that I've sat there and I've created that for them. And also I am massively obsessed with quality, and I just, having managed teams in the past, I just think it could get away. That is not the way to go. So I do need to think about how I can expand in different ways. But so how I structure my week, obviously I've got 3 kids. So
that's
life
easy.
Has been manic. Yeah, that's great. They're a breeze. They're absolutely mental. So I have to wait till so I take them on the school run, drop them off. Bye, kids. And then my parents are both retired, and we moved to the town where they lived last year, which was it was only a couple of miles down the road from where we were before. So they look after Willa for me, who's nearly 2. And I know some people might be judgy on that, like, she lets the parents look after the 2-year-old, she should be having her. But honestly, I'm a better mum for working. Yeah. I am a better mum for working. I know that I am. And I give them everything at the weekend. So Friday night comes and, that's it. I have Saturday, Sunday daytime. It's all about kids. And I'll only let myself work in the evenings when they've gone to bed. And when I say work on a weekend evening, I mean like I'll have something on Netflix and I'll sit and sew. So it's not like attached to my screens, I suppose. So through the week, obviously the kids go to school and Willa goes to my parents, and I get home, have a very big coffee, and then I answer all my emails and messages, because obviously you get DMs through social media. It can be a little all-consuming sometimes, but to be honest, I do feel that having that human connection is so important. So I do allow myself, always try and catch up on those first. And then I probably have another coffee and I start doing my sewing, or if I'm doing a room styling, if the weather's all right and I've got a bit of daylight, I'll probably go upstairs to the kids' rooms and do that before I get down to sewing. So then the afternoon is spent with a needle in my hand and a big box of felt and a bit of chaos in my living room usually. And I do my sewing. And then the following morning before the school run, while I've got the kids having their breakfast, I'll probably wrap up orders ready to send them out. So I do have a bit of structure, but obviously each day is a little bit different.
Yeah. How do you, if you're working by yourself a lot as well, how do you keep motivated, or what's kind of helped you to pass the hours? Is it a lot of Netflix?
Well, yes. So podcasts have been they've been my companionship. But obviously you can go into slight meltdown with like the fact you've caught up with them all. So yeah, there is a bit of Netflix involved sometimes, but I can't look up when I'm sewing really. So it's usually like on in the background and I haven't got a clue what I've just been listening to. And Radio 6 music as well. Listen to a bit of music. Yeah, so that's my companionship. And also Instagram, the community on there they're my friends, like they are my online friends. And every Friday me and the school mums go for a coffee, so I escape the house for about an hour.
That is so needed. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is.
Because sometimes as well, I think, especially in corporate environments or whatever, there's that pressure just to keep going and keep doing all the things. But we all need, especially if you've got a creative element to your business, you need to take time away. I'm learning this the hard way, that actually it's not about the number of hours that I spend. Sometimes I've got to free myself, and I don't know why I held on to that mindset of going, no, just do more or catch up with this email or more self-development. And it's no, you just got to get out and go into the woods or not in a weird way, but like, go to an art gallery or something.
It's hard to learn, isn't it? Because we're so programmed, like you say, like you work from 9 till whatever, 7 or 6, whatever it is. And only then, when you've done all those hours, can you have a break. So it is relearning that kind of work structure, because I'll work during the day, but then I might, like you say, I'll go for a coffee, I'll meet a friend for a drink, well, when we get a chance occasionally. But then I will go back to work in the evening, and it's learning to be able to just drop it there, go and sort the kids out, and then come back to it. I think it's a whole new discipline, and you do have to be so disciplined, but equally self-care is like massively important, massively.
Yeah, because if you don't have it in place, my goodness, you know about it quick, smart.
Absolutely.
Like some kind of weird, horrible car alarm goes off in my head, like, you've been going to bed too late. And it's just, there's no getting around it.
Exactly. And I have to go. I listen to podcasts and people are like, oh yeah, I was up till like midnight work. I have to go to bed at 10. Yeah. I literally have to, because I am not good, tired, and I need to go up at 10, and I always read my book for a few pages, and then I usually sort of start drooling and Chris has to turn the light off and he comes up. But it is really important to factor in some of the things that aren't business related or aren't work related, even though you love work and it's like everything. It is so important to also have something else. And I know we've got the children, that's our something else, but also for you as a person, for your kind of for your well-being, it's important to just be you without being business.
Well, I don't really ever want to have that thing of like, when Oscar is 18, that's when I'll get my life back.
Exactly.
There's a lot of years and a lot of hours and I can do that. And one thing I've sort of realised as he's, getting closer to 3 is, in the beginning, all they sort of want is their mum and dad. But actually, it's really healthy when they get a bit older to, I love it now that he goes to his grandparents and he knows where things are, and, he's a bit sad, he can get away with things, or, he's just a bit like, oh, and he started saying things like just a statement like, when are we having our biscuit? Or let's have our biscuit now. I was like, oh,
you'll notice it when
oh, interesting. Or
when he starts preschool and then school, you'll notice it more and more, like the external influences, I suppose, like my lot, just, they're all crackers, but you can, like you say, when they've been at like grandma's house or at nursery or school, and you're just like, where did you learn that? Like, what is that? It's hilarious. And like my grandparents, I only had my grandma till I was about 5, and I just think it's so nice for them to have that relationship with other people, and I think it's just lovely. Like I wish I'd had that more, with my grandma, and I just remember loving it so much, even though she passed away when I was really little. But I think they're all happy, and my parents absolutely love having them around. Although,
and I really feel like this with mine is that actually you can't. Well, I think that mine are going to live a lot longer, maybe, because sometimes they chat with their mates, and because they're in the world and they're learning, I'll talk to my mum about Instagram, and my mum is it's not like she's an old codger by any means, like she's very with it, but she's going, but Instagram is not part of her work and career landscape. Yeah. So she's like, wow, that's really fascinating how that works. And not that she's saying, oh, let's do a selfie immediately. But
no, mine's exactly the same.
Yeah. And it's like, so are they your friends? What is it? But
yes,
I guess
are they real friends?
Yeah, exactly. Although we did go through in the car the other day somewhere, and I can't remember where it was. Oh, Hitchin or somewhere. My mum was like, I used to have a pen pal in Hitchin, and it was that awkward silence in the car. Like, does she actually mean pen pal? What is this story? But you just breeze over it.
Brilliant.
Sorry, Mum, if you're listening to this. What was I going to say? How have you built this amazing community and following online, sort of relatively quickly? Because there's a lot of people that know about you, and if you put them all in a room,
it'd be quite scary, wouldn't it?
You need a stadium.
Was it Erica Davis when you interviewed her, maybe? Then she said, oh yeah, my husband said all these followers, if they all lined up, and I just laughed at that, and I thought, it's quite surreal, isn't it? You don't think like that. And I suppose I've always had to, so I started Velveteen Babies on my personal account, and I've kept that, and it's kind of got a slightly different following, though I suppose a lot of people might follow both. They're quite different, but I think I kept my personal one as well, because I didn't want to put my children on my business one, because I'm like, they're my kids, I think they're great, but frankly other people might not. So I'm going to give people the option to follow my life outside of work and follow my business, and if they want to follow both, that's amazing, because then they see the whole package, probably the nicest package, because Instagram, let's face it, it's quite curated. But I think being a real person has helped, and it does freak me out when I see 72.7k followers on my business, and I know a lot of that will be bots. They might not all be real people, and certainly there's loads of amazing other small businesses on there that follow me, and I follow them back. But it is a bit freaky, isn't it? Because I think, God, I'm so normal, and I'm not some amazing fashionista down in London. I don't think of myself as being anything special. I think I'm quite normal, and I love style, I love fashion, I love interiors, and but I do find it really surreal. Really surreal. But I do try and put a picture of my face up on my business feed now and again, just so people know that it's a real person.
It's not like the seven dwarves making these things in the middle of the night. But has there been something do you have a strategy behind it? Do you have your own rules and regulations of what you do, or have there been turning points where suddenly you've made leaps and you're like, oh, it was down to that?
Not especially. No, it's always been a really organic thing, and I always say this to other small businesses when they're starting out, and some of them message me and they'll say, how have you got all these followers? Yes. I'm never going to be able to get all those followers, and I'm like, well, you don't need all those followers, because you only actually need 1% of those followers who are actually invested in you. They're buying into you, they're buying into your product. Because if I post a picture and say it gets 1,000 likes, which is amazing, I am not getting 1,000 sales. Yes. A like does not equal a sale, and I think it's really important that people realise that. And honestly, I think there are different times of the year when it's kind of busier, and you start to see those seasons of your business when you've been doing it a couple of years. And I also say to them, once you get to that 5,000, you'll suddenly notice that those followers are just going up and up. And because I think Instagram now has so many people on that platform, they are a bit like sheep, a lot of them, and they'll be like, oh wow, that account's got 50,000, so I think I'll follow it because it must be all right, and I don't think every follower I have is genuinely interested in what I do, but they might think, oh, it's a pretty picture. So it is just plugging in. It's knowing how to produce something that people are going to love and they're going to invest in, because my products are copied now. It's a fact of life. Everybody is. And those copycats are probably cheaper than me. I make a point of not looking, to be honest. But I think they're actually going to they're going to buy into my product because they see the story, they see the love, they see the care. And I really think if you're starting as a business, that's what you need to be showing people. It's not about the followers. And then it sounds so easy to say that because I've got them. Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
No, it really does. And I think there's so much pressure to be focused on those things. But like, I'm speaking at Stylist Live in November, and when I had the meeting, they never asked. I don't know if I'm revealing secrets here, but they never asked me how many followers that I had. I mean, I think they'd seen that I had an online presence, but it certainly wasn't like, oh, well, you need to get 300 more followers, otherwise we can't have the meeting with you. That sometimes there is an old school thing of like, you can do it. You can do it regardless, and actually we're all in it mainly for the long run, and you don't want those quick fixes. As you say, you want those people who genuinely love what you do. And
validation to me is people that will message me and they say how much they love what I've sent them, and they appreciate the fact that I've put a handwritten card in with every single order, and it's me. It's not, I haven't paid some students to come and write them. Like, it is me, I promise.
How do you spell? Yes, actually someone who wants to do it.
That's validation for me over those amazing 70,000 followers. That's amazing. I'm not ever going to think it's not, but equally it's like, just take that with a pinch of salt as well, because I'm lucky. I've been on the platform since, God, when did I start? So I started the business in early 2014, but I've been on Instagram for a bit before then with the dodgy filters and like the dodgy, just awful.
Taking but then when I started, of your fish and chips.
Yeah, pretty much. And like dodgy bar selfies or whatever. Like, we won't go back to that now. But I think starting my business, so 4 years now, isn't it? So Instagram was a different platform then for a start. Yeah. There was no algorithm when I started, and it was a little bit different. But equally, I can see businesses starting now that are getting amazing traction. And I do think the quality of your content always will pay off. It really will. And I've always made a massive point of supporting other small businesses and buying props. This is my top tip if you are starting something visual. Spend some money on other people's products. And what I mean is, like, even in the early days, I would spend, if I had 20 quid spare, I'd go on This Modern Life or whoever, and I'd invest in them, so that when I was styling something, I would tag them or tag whoever it was, printmaker or whoever. And that way, A, you're supporting someone else, but B, they're probably going to think, oh, that's a really cool picture. I might repost that or put it on my stories these days. And to me, that is a massive thing. Like that, I think I do credit some of my kind of visibility down to that, because I always have. And I've always wanted to style something, not just with my stuff, but with someone else's as well.
That's a really good point that you made, actually, about investing. And so many times when people come to me and they want one-to-one work, sometimes it is that moment that they've tried lots of free things, and actually it's that time they go, no, I actually need to go for this. And it's a business expense as well, I think.
Yes, it is.
There's so many ways of trying to do things on the cheap or sort of skirt around things, but sometimes if you actually want to make it great and go for it, it's sort of like getting, I don't know, for a professional headshot shoot as an actor. Like it wasn't one of those things that, I could stand by the garden shed and my mum go,
it's never
going to be a bit, love, it's not gonna cut it for the National Theatre.
Absolutely, you totally get what you pay for and what you put into it. And I definitely investing in yourself and your business is so important. It is tempting to think, oh no, like you say, I'll just go on that free blog, because there's some good tips on there. And actually there is some great free content out there. Amazing. But there does come a point where you do need to think, right, this is doing okay now. I think, it's worth that time and effort and money too, because it, like you say, it comes out of your business anyway. And it's a great thing to do.
And your business is a living, breathing thing that always needs to continue growing and, be taken care of. And, like a child in that way, you wouldn't just go, right, love, I've loved you for the first couple of years. And then, now you're going to just have to wear those things that are too small because you're always up leveling leveling. I always sort of find that as well with my business, is that even when I wake up in the morning, especially, you know, with kids sort of in the middle of the night being up, or, you know, not starting your day in a meditative practice, you know, who does that really? If you've got kids, you've always got someone.
Yeah, not me.
But I always have that thing of, I wonder what's going to happen today, because sometimes there are days that I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, and how brilliant. Yeah.
It's amazing. I love that, because you literally never know what's around the corner, and it's so exciting. It really is. Mm-hmm. And you're like the master of your own destiny, really. And I love that kind of, I like on the harder days when I'm a bit stressed or whatever, and I think, oh God, it was so easy to work for someone else because you got paid holidays, and and then I think, God, no, I don't think I could go back to that now, at least not at this moment in my life. Like, I love having my own business, because it's like, it's hard work, but it's so worth it.
Definitely. What do you wish you'd known, or what would you tell that person who was starting out in 2014? What would be your like words of wisdom?
Oh goodness, yeah. I was thinking about this, and I thought, actually, at school, I wasn't academic. I was the arty one, and all of my friends were like super clever, and they all went to like Oxbridge, you know, the Redwick universities to do clever things. And I always felt like a bit of a thicko compared to them, really. And then I just think, actually, you know, we've all got different paths, and
that wasn't probably celebrated, the fact that you were really artistic, you know. It's sort of...
My school was amazing, and it's still an excellent school, but the arts weren't embraced by that school, really. And I think it's kind of a shame, because actually there's so many of us with different talents that need nurturing. And I remember doing an interior design course in sixth form at the local college. I think we used to just walk to the college after sixth form. And it was this interior design course. And I think I've never felt so fired up as when I did that, rather than all the boring A-levels I was doing.
These are my people. This is where I'm supposed to be.
But then I was just like, I don't know where to go with this, because like my mum and dad were amazing, but they were like, they're working class, self-employed. You know, my dad was a painter and decorator, and my mum had taught fashion design, but I think she was a childminder by then. And I just, no one in my family had kind of gone out there, and I was keen to pursue something artistic, but then in the back of my head I was like, oh no, because I'm more likely to fail if I try and do that. So then I ended up in retail, which I suppose kind of has helped overall. But yeah, I think so going back to me when I started out, it's like, don't worry that you're not that academic person with that career plan and that kind of, I want to be a doctor from the age of 5. You don't need to know what you need to be doing, but just kind of follow your instincts and your talents. And I think if you've got an original idea for something, then go with it. Just make sure no one else is doing it. There's so much talent in creativity, and it's not just people doing a little, you know, oh, this is my picture I did of my dog, or here's my patchwork quilt I'm selling at the local craft fair. Like, there's so much. I think craft and design gets such a bad rep sometimes, because people do conjure up these kind of like these visions of like Granny's craft stall at the local church hall.
That all smell a bit musty.
I want to make craft cool. Like, it is cool. There's so many amazing people out there doing such amazing things. Yeah. So I think it's like, go with it and make those contacts, reach out, even if it's not in your comfort zone. I'm not. I mean, I probably sound quite chatty on here, but we can all be a bit introverted at times. Like, it's forcing yourself out of that.
Totally.
And you'll probably find that everyone is, really. So it's, it's
the number one thing. Like, when I ask people if they want to be on the podcast, they're like, but it's completely scary, and it's, it's one of those things. But I'm so glad that you're saying this out loud, and I think this is why I wanted to start the podcast, is that I didn't have those voices at school going, you know, they sort of were like, yeah, that sounds fun. But they didn't know how to support me in really moving that out. So I had to figure it out and make a lot of mistakes. And one thing that I'm really passionate about going forward is actually saying stuff out loud and sharing things along the way, because I didn't have that. So if I, like, you know, my cousin has been doing her A-levels recently, and I didn't want to be that, you know, wacky older cousin who'd be like, doesn't matter if you
it
fail.
Doesn't matter.
But partly I was just a bit like, it will all be fine, you know. You'll find your way and you'll find your path. And I hate this pressure that you've got to have everything sorted by 18 or 25 or 30.
It's impossible, isn't it? When you're 18, how the hell do you know, unless you are obsessed with being a doctor or a vet, how the hell do you know? Like, I think it's so hard. I mean, I do. If I could go back to being 18, I don't even know what I would have done still, because how do you know what is going to happen to you in life? And what, it's crazy.
And I was so drunk. Like, this is the thing. Like,
me too.
I wouldn't have had like a clear headspace anyway. I was just so in the moment of like being, you know, who's snogging who this weekend, or where are we going, or what's happening, or how much pocket money have I got left? That, you know, how many. It was
like the millennium when I turned 18, and literally like it was party after party.
But we're the same age, totally. And it was that moment of like hanging around really inappropriate boys who, you know, some of which may listen to this podcast. We'll see.
Yes, they might. Hi, boys.
Yeah, and like my dad just being like, "Who is this joker?" But I'm like, "He's so fit."
Yeah. That was it, isn't it? When you're 18, I mean, 18-year-olds seem a bit more savvy and cool than we were actually now. But yeah, we were the uncle, but it was great, wasn't it? I mean, it was like, we'll go out at the weekend and we're going to try and pull so and so, and like,
and we're going to book it in, and we're going to decide, and we're going to talk about it from about, you know, 3 Tuesdays before, and you know, I did watch Kylie in Hyde Park last night. Oh my god, did you see that weird? Like, you have to watch it if you're listening, and it's a bit in the future, but there's this weird moment where she's so real in it, of going, oh, I can't swear on the podcast, but like, oh my goodness, like, this is so freaking weird. This guy that I used to go out with, and yet he's got his arms around my waist.
It was just great. When I think it had come up on the news when I had it on the other morning, and like I just watched a bit of it, and then I saw the idols of my childhood there, and I was like, this is really weird. They look really, really good, because, you know, they're a bit older than us, and I was like, I look as strong as that when I get right. But equally, it was really strange. I was like, oh, this is taking me right back to. Did you have the album with Kylie with that kind of hat that didn't have a top, and she had all the
I did, absolutely. And there was a girl who lived across the road who was a bit mean and a bit sassy, and I remember she was the same age, she was like a month older than me, and I remember her coming over and going, I've got these LPs, like I've grown out of them, so I thought that you might want them. And I was like, amazing. Yeah, well I'll take a look. And I was so flipping thrilled. I was like, I'll have those. So the Jason Donovan ones, and it was so good. Yeah,
I remember them well.
So good. I've got one final question, which is like, where would you like to be in 5 years' time?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this one.
Every time, everyone knows it's coming, but they're like, oh gosh.
I used to get asked this in my what did you have? Every year at work, so they'd always say this, and I'd be like, ooh, what's a really clever answer? Yes, I'd like to be store manager, whatever. I was like, I don't really want to be store manager, I'm just saying. So in 5 years' time, so I'm going to be in my early 40s by then, which is quite terrifying. And the kids going to be a bit older by then. So my youngest will kind of be firmly at school. So I guess it's kind of going to be a time of real change for me. I probably quite like not to be sat sewing most of my day by then, because much as I love it, it does make me feel a bit sluggish, and I do have to try and do some exercise sometimes. I'm hoping Velveteen Babies will still be going, but perhaps in a slightly, I don't know, I think it's going to start morphing and changing. And what I'd really like to start incorporating, or eventually start looking at doing, is moving a bit more into the styling arena. So obviously I do styling work for my Instagram at the moment, and I have done a bit for other brands as well. But yeah, that's definitely something I want to start considering. No, I don't have a definitive answer to this, but But the way my brain works is that I never want to stand still. So I'm sure it'll be something exciting. And if I think that Velveteen Babies is only 4 years old now, so I have a 4-year-old, so kind of still a preschooler, we might just be starting school with that. And so if I think in terms of looking at a business by age, it'll be like 9 years by then. So
and people will be going, do you remember when we used to have Instagram? Do you remember that? Like,
yeah,
it would be like the MySpace of that time.
I do wonder where, so at the minute, I think about 90% of my referrals, so to my website, are through Instagram. So I think it's going to be a very interesting few years moving, kind of looking at not other platforms, because I don't think there is one yet, but seeing where the internet takes us, and also seeing how style develops, how sort of obviously our economy is going to play a big part in that as well, but that's getting way too big. But it'd be very interesting to see where it all goes, because Instagram at the minute is the biggest social media platform, isn't it? But it might not stay that way. So,
and I'm thinking you could definitely incorporate or invent some sort of machine that allows you to exercise while sewing. If that were, there's like treadmill desks where you're like, you just pay 4 installments of $3.99, and I'm just like, I have not got the coordination for that. It just
no, I'm not naturally sporty. I'm the unsporty arty girl from school. Like, I think I was always picked last for every team game going. So, but it's fine. I'll go on an embarrassing jog, run, walk sort of thing. I've got that Couch to 5K app with Joe Wiley, which
just done it.
Yeah. So I do try and do that now. The kids are back at school. I better just dust off my trainers again. But
mine are like old ones from like 2011, and I'm like, oh god, I look like I've been dressed by the Lost Property kit.
Me too. But do you know what? I try and do routes where no one will see me. So.
Me too. Yeah, it's like if I'm not out and done by 7, it's just like, oh no, I am going to bump into somebody that I know. If people want to come and find you, Coral, where should they go?
So obviously everyone says this, and it's true for me too. Instagram, I'm at Velveteen_Babies, I think. Yeah. I don't know why I did the underscore bit in that, but anyway. Or my own personal account for more of me and my horrible rabble of children is at Coral.Atkinson. So both of those, and obviously my website, which is velveteenbabies.co.uk. Those are my main ones. I'm rubbish at Twitter, absolutely don't even do that, and Facebook, equally rubbish. So it's all about Instagram.
Stick with what you know is my philosophy.
Don't spread yourself too thinly.
I'm the same. I'm a bit like, I don't know what to write on Facebook. I don't get it. And there's all those horrors from school there as well. So I'm like,
it's too different. Like, no. Give me Instagram any day.
Exactly. Well, I've loved chatting. Thank you so much. And head on over and have a look at her beautiful items. I think it just feels so nice. And it's just one of those things, I guess, we're all craving different things online. So whatever mood that you're in, you can kind of go, ooh, I want a bit of this, or I want a bit of inspiration. Exactly. And it's great. But thank you so much for being such a brilliant guest. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nikki Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nikkieraby.com/podcast.